Hey, morning, comrades. So, we're here to talk about Eden Spear. What is Eden Spear? Eden Spear was referenced in the previous chapter. It was that giant light that the commander and everybody saw from the back of Whaley. So we're going to learn about that, and we're also going to go back and see what Inherit's been doing this whole time. That's right, Inherit. You remember them, don't you? Because I didn't. It's Eden! Yay! What's Eden? What's Johan? My boy, Johan. And, Celeste, I want to say, and everybody else. Heron, Isabel, and Noah have been doing this whole time. So we skip all the way back in time to right after Dorothy, noped out of there to go head over to the Ark. So, following that, Cecil, I'm sorry, it's not Celeste, Cecil, discuss how Dorothy is just non-responsive, that she's like, what the fuck she's doing, she's supposed to lead her this squad, she's supposed to be taking care of this place in Eden, she's always got her own interests in mind and not like the squad or even anything else. She's like a dirty, traitorous bitch or whatever, and she needs to get over the Ark or whatever. Noah and the rest of the squad are completely shocked that she just noped out there, and they all talk about how baffled and confused everything is and whatnot. And then Isabel assumes it has something to do with us and sex and stuff. But anyway, as we continue on, Johan reveals to Inherit that the Ark was breached by raptures and that the heretic Nylister is heading over there. Despite the Ark's peril, Papillon protests that they go help. The stance of Eden, which is Cecil and Johan mostly, state that they will do nothing. They've completely seceded from the Ark and they will not intervene. There's absolutely nothing they will do. They instead choose to wait for Dorothy to make contact. And as we continue on, Papillon complains about her captivity, how bored she is in Eden, and Johan instructs Isabel to kind of watch over Papillon and make sure that she's isolated, but that he makes sure that no one harms her as well. She can go out and she can do stuff, but don't give her any information, and also make sure that she's not harmed or anything. And that Dorothy, obviously, who is the what are they called? The Bene Gesserit sisters, always has plans upon plans and everything. Eventually, Johan admits to Heron that Dorothy's independent nature is really wearing on him, and that they need to preserve the founding principle of Inherit, which is anatomy from the Ark, and the secrecy of Eden, and that Dorothy's really kind of throwing that back in their face. So finally, Johan issues an ultimatum about how if Dorothy fails to make contact within the next 4 days or something, she'll be completely exiled and treated as an enemy of Eden. They then catch Papillon as she is contacting the Ark. And then they talk to her about how Papillon should abandon the Ark and join Eden, and that she can become a member of Inherit Squad or something. That's what Papillon wants. Johan counters that she is desperate, and that there's absolutely no reason why they should take her on. And he challenges her to prove loyalty to and her worth to Eden before he will reveal their true purpose or what they're doing, or allow her into the squad to have more information. Cecil interrupts them with a report that Chatterbox and Devillia were revived, and that they, along with Nylister, were repelled by Dorothy and Rappy of the Counter Squad, who they met before. So we're getting the whole tale of this story thus far given to us through communications and spying from Cecil and Johan. Shortly after receiving the coordinates to Nylister from us, if you remember, we contacted them, they finally receive a message from Dorothy. So they head over there to the coordinates that Dorothy gave them, but she's nowhere to be found, right? Papillon is tagged along, and she whines about the surface environment, but admits she is too afraid to run away from them at this point, and that she's going to stick around. They banter a little bit, Noah and Isabel specifically, regarding Isabel's intense protective surveillance habits. They scan the area, and finally they notice the distortion in the air, and they tear away the camouflage, what's it fucking called? The optical camo that we put over at Nylister after we told them to go pick them up. And they discovered the barely alive husk of Nylister. He's like, holy shit, awesome. So he quickly coordinates to secure the heretic, sending Isabel back to Eden for a containment cage. He then gets his pistol ready with Vapis bullets and thinks about what the fuck is the motive of Dorothy doing this and everything else that's going on in this gift. Back at Eden, Nylaster is restrained in this like awesome, like almost like crucifixion chamber. And she's completely comatose. Cecil reports that her nanomachines have suffered total system failure and that like 98% of her core energy is lost or something, and that the standard resuscitation methods are not going to like really play any effect, right? Because she was completely cannibalized. And that she's on the verge of like actually being dead. And Johan's like, good, let's dissect her and see what we can get out of her and technology and stuff. But Cecil insists that Nylaster is too valuable of a gold mine of like information to waste like this. And she convinces Johan, who's, you know, always like, nah, fuck this, I don't want to take any chances, do all this stuff, to summon Nayuta, summon the monk is what he calls her, because she has like this advanced technology. And as we learn, she, you know, was a member of VTC, like along with Rapunzel, and VTC had like some most advanced technology like ever existed on the planet, and in my personal theory probably created the Rapture Queen. So they locate her and she kind of like rolls along, and they talk a little bit about how she can survive complete brain destruction because of some power that she inherently has. They meet up with her and, you know, they go back and forth. He calls her like a thing. Nayuta like talks back to him and she's like, I refuse to help you. And then there's some chiding from like Cecil, and Johan finally offers like a more civil request. He's like, okay, Nayuta, please, we need your help. And she's like, oh, okay, sure, fine, I'll help you now. Inside Eden, Nayuta inspects the comatose Nylaster and learns that Johan wants to resuscitate the heretic just enough to interrogate her about the Queen's location. Cecil and Nayuta analyze the heretic's nanomachines, and Nayuta reveals that the key to reviving her core is to feed her, essentially, to feed, just kind of like the way Leviathan was resurrecting Behemoth, is like bringing her like delicious treats. And what is Nylaster's like favorite thing to eat? Of course, it's a Nikke course. So Johan and Cecil are kind of like disgusted and shocked by this thing, where it's like, we just need to literally feed her like parts. And so she goes and gets like an extra robotic arm or whatever, and then feeds it to Nylaster like in her mouth. And then Nylaster, as soon as the stuff's put into like her mouth, she starts chewing and swallows all these like extra pieces they have lying around. And so it starts working, and this prompts them to find some cores and to find some other stuff lying around so they can keep feeding Nylaster so she can recover. And so all the available like rapture material they just have lying around is being used to kind of like get her in a more stabilized situation. And they also put her inside an Atlas cage, which Atlas cages are made of like godesium or whatever, which is like the strongest metal ever. And that they get her set up so that it's a complete, like in this Atlas cage, which is like impenetrable from the inside. It's what was holding like Indivilia and Chatterbox, and now they started to come in from the outside to like rescue them. And, you know, feeding her and keeping her like chained up and whatnot. And then while Cecil's like working on all this stuff, she gets Johan to like take Nayuta and like walk around Eden and show her what's up. So as they tour around through Eden, they run into the Inherit Squad. Herod and Isabel recall seeing Nayuta meet that they recall that Nayuta, they've seen Nayuta like literally die multiple times on the surface, and that she always seems to bounce back. Well, Noah mocks her and her appearance and challenges her to demonstrate her immortality on the spot. Meanwhile, Papillion grows restless in like her locked room, and that she tries and tries, but she's unable to bypass any of the security stuff, when suddenly her offline phone receives a message directly from, in like an encrypted babble or blah 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 message from Dorothy, who has somehow bypassed the local network and is reaching out to her as like the spy that she is. Dora then commands Papillion to bypass her room's tablet lock and tells her how to do it using the password Pine. That's right, Pine's back. And so she activates Dorothy's tablet, and then she transmutes this file called File A, I think. And it contains Eden's like all the metal technology, all their metallurgical information and stuff, like where they can get metals and the processing of metals and all the stuff, all the kind of all the wheeling and dealing she's doing with burning him, that she's trying to pass off or whatever. And this, let's see, this is all to ensure that, like, you know, they can build this reclamation site 1 essentially, so that we can get away out of the Ark and be able to survive on the surface. And at this point, Papillion, even though she's talking about loyalty and Johan wants to test the loyalty and all this stuff, she decides that she's going to go against Eden and help Dorothy with the Ark stuff. back to Johan and Nayuta, they're talking about like the air filtration and all this stuff, and they talk about kind of a bunch of random technology stuff, and then the conversation shifts over to Pioneer, and they talk about how Eden's stance is that Pioneer is respected, but they cannot cooperate with them due to the fact that Pioneer wants to like save the Ark, and Eden's like, fuck the Ark, right? But they both want to kill the Queen and then kind of go their separate ways. So as part of that, they can work together. And that while the Ark and us, the commander, and Pioneer's goal is to like save the Ark and destroy the Queen, the stance of Eden, Johan, and Cecil and stuff is that like, fuck the Ark. Like, if it came to destroying the Queen and sacrificing the Ark, they would sacrifice the Ark without a second. And then they talk about how Johan like completely he distrusts Nayuta, and he's also concerned because of her like past and like the VTC connection and like some other connections that she may have with like raptures and stuff. And then the whole thing about how Nayuta is not like a single Nikke. She's like, she can take like her nymph and create clones of herself, and so she's like an entire network, and like pieces of this network can be corrupted, and then if they brought back in, like, she could be corrupted, right? There's no way to like tell like what's going on with that, and that this data she's gained from this continuous cycle life and death is like really kind of sketchy. And then they talk about any information that Nayuta's gained from all these like clones dying and coming back, or gaining information about like what's going on and whatnot. And then they talk about how Nayuta has old information, but it could still be relevant, and that's the fact that the Queen is actually orbiting still directly above Eden. So after Cinderella like blasted the space station like out of the sky, the Queen fell, but then she just kind of like is orbiting directly above Eden, and she's obscured by this like huge mass of like liquid metal. And so who's that going to be? Who did that? I wonder. Because there's only one person we know who has that much control over liquid metal, and that would be Siren. So anyway, before they can get into the conversation about the liquid metal, or kind of talk about all the questions about which clone, is this actually Nayuta, or is this one of the clones or whatnot, Cecil announces that Nalister has finally regained consciousness. So they head back over there, and we get a fucking awesome scene of them like talking to like a defiant yet very, very, very weakened Nihilister. Johan and Nayuta decide talk about like her recent history. They look at like the crushing and bite marks, and they figure out that she was eaten by Chatterbox and Indivilia, and that she's like defending these like quote unquote allies, but these allies like tried to destroy her or whatever, and they betrayed and cannibalized her. And they talk about that and how can she, is that really the kind of like just you want to be associated with these people, and like so you could give us information and we could destroy them for good or whatnot. And then he thinks about the claim that the Queen could be lured, because at some point now Lister mentions Lilith's body, and that the Queen would be very interested in Lilith's body, obviously, because it's one of the greatest technological things that was ever created. And then they talk about how Nihilister sought out allies because she's already located Lilith's body on the surface and plans to use it to assassinate the Queen, because Nihilister, like the 4Bs, kind of hates the Queen. So they continue to like interrogate her, and Johan continues to make threats about, you're just gonna be like a half heretic here forever. And finally Nihilister like gives up, right? Essentially, she's like, I'm tired. And so she offers a bargain, and that's if Eden restores her ability to walk, she will guide them to Lilith's body. And Nayuta loves this idea and is like, yes, we need to go do that. It's a great idea. Johan reluctantly yields after some back and forth, and so then they restore her so that she can walk. The Nihilister then kind of confirms what Nayuta was talking. Explains that the Queen has long resided in space, and that the heretics have received no mental commands for over a century, right? And that's when Cinderella blasted her, and then Siren created the liquid metal, which we get in this. We get confirmation on that in this event, so it's not like I'm spoiling too much. So they've essentially just been kind of going around doing whatever they want for like the last 100 years, and Lib Aurelios keeps threatening that the Queen's around and they got to watch out for the Queen and all this stuff. But the last message from the Queen was this desperate cry to find Lilith's body, and that kind of got Nihilister interested. And when she was kind of free from the Queen's like direct control, she was more interested in being like a libertarian at doing her own shit. So she reveals that the Queen actually already possesses the head of Lilith, but that she craves like the rest, and that the queen shares a nanomachine psychology with all the heretics, like as in they can all speak to each other and get commands and whatnot. Nikke exposes Nalister's true plan. She intends to, because Nalister really wants to kill the queen. So she wants to get Lilith's body. She wants to poison it with Vapis, like Lisa holding with Vapis, to destroy the nanomachines and then let the queen absorb it, right? Which would give her power, but also kind of like destroy a lot of her power as well. At this point, Nalister has this like awesome like laughing scene. She openly invites Eden and Nayuta to cooperate with her and urges them to help her find the body, lace it with the Vapis that they got. The Johan has a whole bunch from the bullets and stuff. And then they can finally like kill the queen. Because if she absorbs like enough, it'll destroy all the nanomachines, which like will hypothetically kill the queen completely. And so it's like, oh hey, we have a way to kill the queen finally. That's awesome. Elsewhere in Eden, Papillion continues to leak sensitive information, including like weapons technology and all this stuff from folders inside Dorothy's like offline tablet connection. She's very suspicious of Doro's like goodwill ambassador claims and worried about being discarded. Papillion is, but she's lured by like all the promises, and you know it's like, oh, she's gonna get all these promotions and she's gonna have like a sweet life and be able to do this stuff, and that she'll never have to like go to the surface ever again. Finally, she gets like let out of her room, and then at that point, Isabel hands over like a key card for Eden to her, talking about how she complained about her restricted access and being bored and whatnot, and then she acts moved. Then like, oh, thank you so much, and she like puts on a real show because she feels really guilty for leaking all this information to Dora and kind of betraying their trust and whatnot. And then we find out that Isabel's going to head out onto the surface to harvest more rapture parts we know for Nilister, but Papillion doesn't really know. While they're on the surface, the squad hunts for like these gourmet rapture components so they can keep fueling Nilister's recovery. They talk about how they know that Papillion is leaking information to Doro. And then they talk about how Doro is like got like a childlike psychology regarding the arc. Like it's like mommy syndrome, right? It's like my abusive mom, but like she's still my mom, so I'm still gonna do stuff. And they talk about how her schemes are gonna fail, and they talk about how even though she reached out and Johan hasn't made her like an official enemy of the Eden, if like Doro gets like too ahead of herself, then Johan will declare her like an enemy of Eden. They will have to destroy her if she ever comes back around. A bit later, there's this huge like localized storm that just is downpouring on Eden constantly, and it's like for over 2 weeks or whatever. And Cecil's like confused about it. It's like disrupting communications. Papillion continues to complain about boredom and stuff, and at some point we find out that Nilister's physical recovery is like fully complete. Inside the lab with the weakened Nilister, she demands her weapons back, but Johan and Ayuta are like, fuck no. Nilister mentions that it's about a 2-week walk to get to retrieve Lilith's body, so it's like 2 weeks there, 2 weeks back. At that point, Nilister realizes that there's this continuous rain, because they were kind of talking about it and whatnot, and then she's like, it's Liberalia, and that means that Eden's location is being actively scouted for. At that point, Isabel alerts the team that Liberalia and this huge army of like raptures are bearing down on them, and so Johan orders everybody to freeze Nilister in the moment, because part of this whole thing is that all the heretics are connected. So once Nilister like came back, Liberalia was like looking around for her and couldn't find her because the optical camouflage is so good, and so she started like the rain thing because she's like, well, obviously there's got to be something here. And that they talk about killing Liberalia, but Nilister tells him to save it for the queen. Like they only have so much like Vapis, and they need to make sure they save it for that. He's like, that's fine, we got another weapon. Elsewhere outside, Liberalia senses this like anomaly from like the rain that she's causing, and just before she's able to like track down exactly where Eden is at, the camouflage comes off and we see this giant cannon, and the cannon is the Eden Spear, right, which is a super massive, super powerful particle cannon that can like destroy anything. And they fire it right at Liberalia, which like blasts her and completely destroys like all these raptures that are around there. And the issue with it is it takes like all the power in Eden, so they can only they can't. That's why they can't keep up the camouflage, and they actually everything has to come down for a minute while the power recharges. And so 2 weeks later, they unthaw Annihilister, and she learns about, and they're like, oh hey, we destroyed Liberalia with this thing. And then she gets mad because she wanted to kill the jellyfish, right? Because she fucking hates her too. And then Johan gets ready to like lead the expedition to go get Lilith's body. While keeping, and they talk about how they got to keep Annihilister at like this really weakened state so that she doesn't do anything silly. But then as soon as Annihilister steps out of the Atlas cage, she starts laughing again. And without the effects of the dampening, the telepathy. Oh, okay. So Liberalia didn't sense Annihilister. She just like wandered over here and was like, something's weird. I'm going to kind of figure out what it is. Okay. She realizes that Liberalia survived and that she's dispersing like microscopic units all around. So that once she got blasted, she's like, okay, I know there's something. She like she healed up. She didn't die completely, and then she was able to like figure out exactly where Eden was by being like much more sneaky instead of using the rain and whatnot. And then at that moment, all the emergency alarms like go off and whatnot, because Liberalia has infiltrated Eden's annex. She finds Cecil, knocks her unconscious, and takes control of Eden's spear, declaring that she no longer cares about Annihilister because she already has love, right? Whatever that fucking means. She then fires a 30% output beam, because it takes so long to charge this thing, directly into the cosmos to summon her mother. And at that point, as soon as she makes the blast, and that's the blast we see going off into the sky, we jump around to a bunch of different people. So we go over to Marion, who's in the Crown Kingdom, and she looks off and sees the pillar of light striking into the heavens. And then she feels like this urge to prevent the Queen's ideal world from eclipsing her own ideal world. And then she bids farewell to Chime, Crown, and Kilo and slips away into the night to take back her ideal world. Right? And then elsewhere, Siren and Cinderella watch in horror as, they watch the blue light, and then Siren's like, oh no, Cinderella, fuck. And Cinderella's like, what? And it's like, I put up the liquid metal to stop the Queen from coming to the Earth and being able to, like, I hid her so that she couldn't see what was going down on the Earth. But now that the shield, or the whatever she calls it, is gone, and so now the Queen can look down upon the Earth, and so the world is no longer protected. So Siren, who again is like the best of us, so between like the old tales, man, they fucked that Queen up like for 100 fucking years. They destroyed her home, and then Cinderella did, and then Siren like made it so she couldn't leave space and couldn't see what was going on the Earth, and she's just been like floating up there getting like no communications whatsoever, completely blinding her and whatnot. But now that that's been destroyed by Liberalia, the Queen can now descent. And then we head back over to Eden, and Johan reveals that the spears, he also realizes the same thing. He's like, as soon as the liquid metal was destroyed, they got the coordinates directly for the Queen. And that the Queen, as soon as the metal was gone, and she was able to, she like changed her trajectory to land on Earth instead of just kind of floating around up there. So Cecil's like, fuck. And so she starts doing everything she can to like recharge the cannon power and all that. And then Johan tasks Nayuta to summoning the scattered pilgrims to scattered pioneer squad to come help them. And so she starts meditating on that, and then she fires a golden pillar of light from her body into the sky, praying that the legendary goddess can arrive before all their plans crumble. Dun dun dun. that sets us up for not only the next. So at this point, we kind of like have a split in like the main story. We have the Eden focused stuff that we're going to follow up with in 2 weeks when we get Goddess Fall. So this was Eden Spear, the short story. And then with the main chapter, we're going to focus a lot on like the arc and handling like what the 4 beasts have been up to for the next month or so before we start. And then there's like the idol stuff, which is kind of hilarious. And then it's just like the fuck is going on here? And then we're going to kind of roll back in all this stuff together, maybe by the end of the year of 2026. But yeah, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later.